The fluorescent lights hummed above the courtroom, the kind of cold, steady sound that made time feel slower. People whispered in the gallery. A clerk shuffled papers. The bailiff stood like a statue by the door. On the bench sat Judge Nathaniel Rhodes, silver hair, polished glasses, watch that cost more than most people's rent. He had the calm face of a man who had seen everything, the firm voice of someone used to being obeyed. He tapped a pen against the edge of his legal pad and nodded to the clerk. Next case, the clerk called out. State of Massachusetts versus Emily Carson. A young woman took a trembling step forward. She held a frayed tote bag to her chest like a shield. Her sweater was thin, the sleeves too long, the color washed out by too many laundromats. Her jeans were clean, but tired at the knees. She kept brushing her hair behind her ear, a nervous habit, as if she wanted her face to look respectable in a place that judged everything. The prosecutor stood. Assistant District Attorney Mark Blake had a square jaw and a tie too tight for his neck. Your Honor, the defendant is charged with misdemeanor theft, shoplifting from Randolph's Market. This is not her first incident. 3 months ago, she received a warning for the same conduct at a different store. We will be seeking jail time. Judge Rhodes lifted his eyes. Ms. Carson, do you have counsel? A woman rose from the defense table. Maya Chun, public defender, Your Honor. We're ready. The judge glanced at the file, flipping with the practiced rhythm of a man who could read while thinking about 10 other things. Items taken: 3 cans of hypoallergenic baby formula, 1 loaf of bread, 1 jar of peanut butter. You walked past the registers without paying. Security stopped you. You cooperated. You returned the items. You were released. Why am I not simply entering a plea, Ms. Chun? Because, Your Honor, Maya said, the facts don't tell the whole story. The facts are the story, Blake snapped. The law loves facts, Judge Rhodes murmured, but it also allows context. He looked at Emily over his glasses. Ms. Carson, how do you plead? Emily tried to speak, but her voice came out as a dry whisper. She swallowed, lifted her chin, and said, Not guilty, Your Honor. A few people in the back scoffed. Someone muttered. She walked out with it. The bailiff glanced their way, and the whisper died. Very well, the judge said. Let's begin. Blake called the store's loss prevention officer, a man named Dale, who walked like a bulldog, and called everyone sir. He testified that Emily tucked the cans into her tote, hesitated at the checkout, and then kept walking. He said she didn't run. He said she looked sad. He said he'd seen it 100 times. Blake asked for the video to be played. The screen flickered on. There was Emily, moving slowly down the aisle, standing too long in front of the formula section. She picked up a can, put it back, picked it up again. She did that 3 times. She added bread, peanut butter. She stepped into a line twice, stepped out twice, then walked toward the exit with her shoulders hunched like she expected a hand on her shoulder. The security guard stopped her outside, and even in the grainy footage you could see her mouth form the words, I'm sorry. Blake folded his arms. No further questions. Maya stood. Dale, did Ms. Carson threaten anyone? No, ma'am. Did she argue? Yell? Try to hide anything when you approached? No. Did she say why she took those specific items? She said it was for her baby. Maya nodded. Thank you. No more questions. Blake sat with a satisfied sigh. Open and shut, Your Honor. Judge Rhodes rested his chin on his hand. Ms. Chun. Maya touched Emily's arm and spoke softly. Emily drew a breath that shook, then walked to the stand. She took the oath with fingers that wouldn't hold still. Ms. Carson, Maya began. Tell the court about your life right now. Emily looked at the floor, then up at the jury box, even though there was no jury today. I have a son. Noah. He's 2. Her voice strengthened a little when she said his name. He has a milk protein allergy. The doctor says he can't have regular milk. The formula he can take it's expensive. How expensive? Maya asked. $29.99 plus tax. He needs it every couple of days. Do you work? I did, Emily said. I had a job at Brookline Diner. Nights mostly. The owner sold the place in April. We got laid off. I clean houses when I can. Sometimes I babysit for my upstairs neighbor. It's not steady. Do you receive help? Child support? Family. Emily's face pinched at the name child support, like the words had teeth. No family. My mom died when I was 17. My dad left when I was 3. Noah's father. He's not in the picture. And that's a good thing. Why? Maya's voice stayed gentle. He was violent, Emily said quietly. I have a restraining order. A murmur rippled through the room. Blake stood. Relevance, Maya replied. It goes to her financial circumstances and safety concerns, Your Honor. Judge Rhodes nodded once. Overruled. Continue. Tell us about the day of the incident, Maya said. Emily twisted the strap of her tote bag. Noah had a fever the night before. He vomited twice. He wouldn't stop crying. The clinic gave us samples last week, but we ran out. I went to Randolph's because they have the formula brand the doctor recommended. I had $20 in cash. I brought a handful of coins. I thought maybe there was a sale, or maybe I could ask the manager if I could pay half and pay the rest later. I stood in line. Twice. I was trying to find the words. People were behind me. The guy at the register looked tired. There was a customer with a cart full of groceries. I panicked. So you walked out, Maya said softly. Yes. I knew it was wrong. I'm not saying it wasn't. But Noah, he was at the neighbors crying. I could hear him in my head, even there. It felt like the whole store could hear him. I thought if I leave quickly, maybe I can come back tomorrow and pay the manager. I wrote a note. She reached into the tote and pulled out a creased slip of paper. I wrote, I will pay for this as soon as I can. I'm sorry. Emily C. Her hand shook as she held it up. Maya took the note and showed it to the judge. Your Honor, we'd like this entered into evidence. Blake frowned. Convenient note. Maya turned. We also have a copy of the clinic's prescription for hypoallergenic formula and a receipt for antibiotic drops for Noah, dated 2 days earlier. May we submit? The judge adjusted his glasses and took the papers. His eyes lingered a second too long on the clinic letterhead. Children's General Hospital, the same place where, years ago, a different infant had filled a room with monitors and hope until the beeping stopped. He set the papers down with care that looked like nothing to the room, but felt like too much to him. Admitted, Maya stepped closer to Emily. Did you try any other options before you went to the store? I went to the food pantry, Emily said. They were closed for inventory. I called the church 2 blocks over. The phone went to voicemail. I texted 3 people who sometimes give me cleaning work. Nobody answered. It was raining. I walked. My shoes were soaked. I told myself I'd figure it out. I always do. But walking past the formula aisle felt like walking past air. And when security stopped you? I told him I was sorry, Emily said. He was nice. He didn't yell. He just asked me to come to the office. I went. Maya nodded. No further questions. Blake stood and buttoned his coat like he was bracing for weather. Miss Carson, you said you planned to come back and pay. Did you tell the manager that? I didn't get the chance, Emily said. But you made a choice to take items you couldn't pay for. I did, she said. And I'm sorry. No more questions, Blake said, as if her apology made his case stronger. Judge Rhodes sat very still. He was a man who loved order. Clocks that kept perfect time, arguments that clicked into the shape of logic, statutes that fit like puzzle pieces. Law had been the boat that carried him away from a heavy childhood. He still remembered trying to open a can of beans with a screwdriver as a boy because the opener broke. He remembered his mother crying on a Tuesday night and saying she was fine when she wasn't. He had kept those memories in a locked room of his mind. He had shut the door and stacked books in front of it. Contracts, case law, ethics. He had money now. A house on the hill. A summer place by the water. A leather chair that didn't squeak. Rules had given him all of that. Rules and discipline and a voice that never trembled. He cleared his throat. Mr. Blake, recommendation? 3 months in county jail, suspended upon completion of 60 days incarceration. Your Honor, Blake said. We need deterrence. She has a prior warning. If we let need excuse theft, every store in this city becomes a charity. And that's not how society functions. Maya stood fast. Your Honor, jail will take this mother away from her 2-year-old. There are alternatives: restitution, community service, mandatory meeting with a social worker, enrollment in assistance for WIC or SNAP. She has no violent history. She cooperated fully. Punish her, but don't destroy her. The judge looked at Emily. She tried to hold his gaze and failed. He reached for the gavel, not to strike it, but to feel its balance, the way a carpenter might hold a tool before deciding where to cut. He could hear the hum of lights, the tick of the second hand on the clock, the little squeak a shoe makes when someone shifts on the marble floor. Before I decide, he said, "Is there anyone here from Randolph's Market?" A woman in a navy blazer raised her hand. "I'm the assistant manager, Your Honor." "Would you approach?" he asked. She did, introducing herself as Dana. She kept glancing at Emily with a conflicted expression, like someone standing between a policy and a person. "Ms. Ellis," the judge said, reading her badge, "what is your store's policy on first-time offenders who steal food for immediate need?" "We don't have a formal policy for that," she said. "We report theft. But when I watched the footage and saw it was formula, I told Dale to call me before calling the police. I wanted to talk to her." She looked at Emily. By the time I got to the office, the call had already gone through. "Why did you want to talk to her?" the judge asked. "Because I have twins," Dana said. "We used that same formula the first year. It drains your bank account, but what can you do? They need it. I thought maybe we could figure something out." "So this wasn't company policy," the judge said. "It was human policy." Dana's cheeks flushed. Yes, Your Honor." Blake rose. "Your Honor, with respect, store policies don't change the criminal code." "They don't," Judge Rhodes said, "but they tell me about the world we are in when I apply it." Dana stepped back. The judge folded his hands. He could end this now with a crisp sentence. He could suspend jail time and still feel strict. He could be the kind of judge who sleeps well because the law is neat on paper. He pictured his late wife, Lila, in a blue scarf, laughing in their kitchen before the house felt too big for one person. He pictured a nursery with a mobile that never spun for long. The brand name on the clinic letterhead, Children's General, scratched at a scar he never touched. He looked at Emily. "Ms. Carson, where is Noah right now?" "With Ms. Jensen," Emily said. "My upstairs neighbor. She's 65. She bakes cookies that taste like they're from a commercial." Emily smiled weakly. "She says he's got sticky fingers and a sticky smile." A quiet laugh rolled through the room and eased the air for a heartbeat. "Does he have a pediatrician?" the judge asked. "Yes," Emily said. "Dr. Ahmed at Children's General." The judge nodded slowly. Lila had volunteered there on Saturdays, reading to kids when the oncology nurses needed a moment. He tapped the pen again. "Mr. Blake, a moment at the bench." The lawyers approached. Their voices dropped. Emily stared at her own hands and thought of the way Noah's fingers curled when he slept, how his eyelashes rested like commas on his cheeks. She remembered pressing a cool cloth to his forehead and whispering stories about brave lions and tiny boats. Please, she thought, not jail. Not 2 months away from him. He won't understand. After a minute, the judge leaned back. "I am prepared to issue a ruling," he said. The room straightened. The hum seemed louder. The gavel looked heavier. "Ms. Carson," he began, "you broke the law. The law is not a suggestion. We live together because we agree that certain lines must not be crossed. But justice is more than punishment. It is also wisdom, proportion, and the courage to see a person and not only a file." Blake's jaw tightened. Maya squeezed Emily's elbow. "I was prepared to sentence you to jail time," the judge continued, and Emily's breath hitched audibly. "But I listened to your story. I reviewed the documents from the clinic. I considered your cooperation and the nature of the items you took. And I considered that a society reveals itself by how it treats a mother who is desperate to feed her child." Blake stood. "Your Honor." "Sit down, Mr. Blake," the judge said, not unkindly, but with the gravity of a door closing. He turned back to Emily. "Here is my decision. The charge is continued without a finding for 12 months. You will not serve jail time if you comply with the following. You will perform 100 hours of community service at an organization that supports families in need. You will meet with a social worker in this courthouse today to enroll in assistance programs for which you qualify. You will work with Dana Ellis to set up a restitution plan to repay Randolph's Market for the items you took, even if it is $10 a month. You will not return to that store unless you can pay. If you violate any part of this, the case will be brought back and I will impose the original sentence. Do you understand?" Tears gathered and spilled. Emily nodded, so fast it looked like she might be trying to keep her head from floating away. Yes, Your Honor. Yes. Thank you. I won't let you down. Additionally, the judge said, hearing his own voice and wondering who was speaking through him, this court will connect you to the Lila Foundation. They provide emergency vouchers for infant formula and diapers. They can help starting today. Maya blinked. Your Honor, thank you. She looked at him with a flicker of recognition. Lila was his wife's name. People in this city knew the foundation, but didn't always say why it existed. The judge did not meet her eyes. He stared at his notes like they held an ocean. Blake exhaled through his nose, defeated but not angry. The Commonwealth will accept the court's disposition. Dana, the assistant manager, stepped closer and spoke almost to herself. I'll bring a voucher book to the store tonight. The judge lifted the gavel. This is not forgiveness, he said. It is a chance. Court is adjourned. The wood struck once, and the sound seemed to ripple through the building. Emily stood there a second, as if afraid to move and wake up. Then she hugged her tote bag, whispered thank you into the air, and covered her mouth. Maya guided her to a bench outside. Dana approached and, without asking, pressed a business card into Emily's palm. We'll figure out, she said. I know a guy in inventory. Don't worry. Outside the courtroom, the world kept going. Phones buzzed. Shoes squeaked. A vending machine hummed. Emily sat with her forearms pressed to her knees and cried into her hands. Not the loud, broken kind, but the kind that shakes a person from the inside. Maya rubbed her shoulder. You did good, she said. You told the truth. A social worker named Patrice came to escort Emily downstairs. We'll get you set up, Patrice said. WIC, SNAP, housing waitlists, the whole alphabet soup. And I'll call the clinic to see if they have more samples. Emily nodded, eyes red, heart thudding with a new mixture of fear and relief that felt like the first breath after a long time underwater. Back in the emptying courtroom, Judge Rhodes sat alone for a minute. The clerk collected files. The bailiff chatted in a low voice about the Red Sox. The judge's hands were steady, but his chest felt strange, like the air wasn't sitting right. He opened the top drawer of his bench and pulled out an old photograph. Lila in a blue scarf, holding a sleeping newborn girl whose name had been chosen and cherished and whispered into a hospital room that was too quiet by morning. He stared at the picture like it might blink. He remembered the way Lila had said, if we can make it easier for one mother, just one then, and then she hadn't finished because neither of them could. He set the photo down, closed the drawer, and stood. On the way to his chambers, he stopped by the clerk's desk. Call the foundation, he said. Make sure they've got someone to meet Ms. Carson downstairs. I want the voucher in her hand before she leaves the building. Yes, Judge, the clerk said. He walked into his office and closed the door softly, the way you close a nursery door. He stood at the window for a long time, looking at the city. It was late afternoon, the kind of gray that makes streetlights blink on early. People moved like pieces on a board, each with a story nobody else fully knew. After work, he went home to the big quiet house and did something he hadn't done in years. He cooked. Nothing fancy, just pasta with olive oil and garlic and a little lemon. He ate half and put the rest away. He took a notebook from the drawer and wrote a list. Court liaison with Children's General. Expand voucher program. Store partnership meetings. Policy memo on alternatives to prosecution for necessity-based theft. He capped the pen and stared at the list like it might grow roots. The next morning, Emily woke in her small apartment to the smell of coffee from Ms. Jensen's kitchen and the sound of Noah laughing at a cartoon. She blinked at the ceiling. For a second, she didn't remember why her chest felt lighter. Then she did. She rolled on her side and whispered, "Thank you." She didn't know who she was talking to exactly. God, the judge, the part of the world that hadn't given up on her. She and Patrice met at the clinic. They filled forms that asked the same questions in different shapes. They waited. They signed. They left with a paper that meant help. Later, Dana swung by the apartment with a bag. 3 cans of the formula, 2 packs of diapers, and a note. From one mom to another. Pay it forward when you can. Emily held the can like it was gold. She prepared a bottle, and Noah drank quietly, eyes half closed, little hand gripping her finger. Relief rolled through her like warm water. She kissed his forehead and tasted salt and baby shampoo. In the weeks that followed, Emily cleaned more houses. Word of mouth turned into a small list of clients. Patrice helped her secure a daycare voucher, which meant she could take morning jobs and not just the scraps left after nap time. At night, she wrote down 3 good things, even when the best she could come up with was, "We had hot water," and Noah said truck, but it sounded like duck, and we laughed. She put $10 in an envelope labeled Randolph's every Friday and walked it over each month. Dana would accept it with a smile that said, "We're okay." And in a courtroom with humming lights, a judge kept a new set of papers on his desk. Referral forms, contact lists, a script he began to use in cases like Emily's. He still believed in rules. He still believed in consequences. But he began to say, "Tell me what happened," in a way that invited an answer. One day, months later, Emily came back to the courthouse for the final review of her case. She wore a thrift store blouse that fit well and jeans without thin knees. Her hair was neat. Her eyes still carried tiredness, but now it was the kind you earn, not the kind you drown in. Noah was at daycare, learning colors and declaring every animal either a dog or a cow. Emily stood before the bench and felt her heart pound like the first time. "Ms. Carson," the judge said, "you've completed your service hours, paid restitution, and provided proof of enrollment in assistance programs. The charge is dismissed." She exhaled like a balloon. "Thank you, Your Honor." He nodded, and their eyes met. For a second, there was something like recognition. Not that they knew each other, but that they knew something true about the other now. He lifted his gavel, then paused. "Ms. Carson," he added, "there was a time in my life when a little help would have changed everything for my family. I didn't get it then. I'm glad you got it now. Make it count." "I will," she said. "I promise." She turned to leave, then glanced back. "Your Honor." "Yes. You said something that day. You said this wasn't forgiveness, it was a chance." She swallowed. For me, it felt like both. He didn't answer right away. He thought of a blue scarf and a room with a mobile that never spun long enough. He thought of a list in a notebook that was getting shorter. Sometimes, he said, those things look the same. Outside, the city was bright. Emily walked down the steps into the kind of light that makes everything look possible. She pulled out her phone and texted Ms. Jensen. "Case dismissed." Confetti emojis came back instantly, a string of them, then cookies to celebrate. Emily laughed out loud and wrote, "Yes, big cookies. Save one for my judge." She tucked the phone away and kept walking. The world still had bills and hard days. The rent didn't care about how soft your heart was. Life would ask her for more, and she would have to find it. But the memory of a courtroom where a wealthy judge almost sent her to jail and instead listened, it would travel with her like a small, warm light. If you were there, watching from the back row, you might have thought the story ended when the gavel fell. But the real ending was this. A mother fed her child. A store manager chose compassion alongside policy. A social worker made calls until the answer was yes, and a man with a gavel remembered that justice, at its best, is not blind. It sees the whole person. And if you were that person in the back row, driving home past the market and the clinic in the church with its voicemail, you might have asked yourself a quiet question that lingers. When someone is drowning right in front of you, do you throw them a law, or do you throw them a hand?